Welcome back. We're doing power rankings for what will be week number 5 with Kubota Highlander Racing. A little bit of movement here and there. There's just some guys here in the back half of the top 10 that are just not very consistent, and I can't really figure them out right now. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint how these guys are running. Are they bad? Are they good? Are they slow? Are they fast? It's really hard to tell. So not a ton of movement here on the board for week number 5, but still definitely some movement. We got a new driver at the top, which you could probably guess who it is. But I'm not going to say it off the bat or else that'll ruin this video, right? So week 5 power rankings, both races at Lakeside Speedway. We've got where the drivers at in the points here and their 2 finishes from last weekend. So let's kick things off here with the driver who is in 10th right now on the power rankings, moving back into the top 10, moving up 1 position. And it is Parker Price Miller. So he finished up in 6th and in 18th. He is currently 8th in the overall Kubota Highlander Racing point standings. And Parker Price Miller, just 2 decent, 1 good run and then 1 run where it's like, what's going on here? And that's going to be mentioned a lot here through the next couple of guys. There's just no consistency for a couple of these guys, and PPM is one of them. Obviously, that news came out, I put on the channel yesterday about him losing his crew chief, Bernie Stubjen. And now Parker is the crew chief of the car. And so for him to come out and get a 6th place run, I thought that was pretty impressive considering the circumstances. But then the next night out, he finishes 18th. So we'll see what they can do. He's going to 34 next week, or coming up on Friday night, and he's got an outlaw win there. So hopefully he can maybe figure something out from back then and turn that into a top 5 run. Right now, Parker Price Miller, 10th in the overall Kubota Highlander Racing power rankings, according to my opinion. In the 9th spot and staying in the same place as last week is Justin Peck. So Peck, 9th in points, 9th in power rankings. His 2 finishes on the weekend, 15th and 5th. And this is probably the team I'm kind of most confused about, right? They started out the year pretty hot. They were fast at East Bay, fast at Golden Isles. Just didn't really have the luck to go their way. And now recently it's like they're really, really good one night and then they're kind of struggling the other night, right? They haven't gotten really into a rhythm, it seems like. They're really trying to find that groove. And Justin, we know that he's a very good driver. We know how much, I was going into the year, I had him finishing just outside of a charter spot in 6th in points and having a couple of wins. He has not done that yet. He's been on in the top 5 a couple of times, maybe a podium or 2, but just been a real interesting year so far for Justin Peck. And 9th in points right now. We'll see if he can get going here this weekend at Tri-City at 34, and then he heads home to Kokomo Speedway, where he won last year with Highlander Racing. So could be a good turning point in the season for Justin Peck. All right, now moving down 2 positions to the 8th spot on the power rankings is Spencer Baston, moving down. So he was 6th. He is now 8th. He comes into this 6th overall in the point standings. His finishes on the weekend, 8th and 22nd. So that 8th place run, he started 23rd, drove up through the field, was the hard charger in that one. And then he was running around the top 10 for this second night, and he got into it with Ryan Timms and got upside down, was not able to finish the race. So I think Spencer Baston has the speed in the feature. He just cannot seem to put the whole night together. That's what I've kind of been mentioning here the last couple of power rankings. They cannot get it going in qualifying in the heat race, but when it comes feature time, they might be one of the best cars on the racetrack. They just start way too far behind to make anything of it, right? So Baston, I think he was pretty fast, but the 2 guys ahead of him, I think, are a little bit better right now. They were more consistent on the weekend, and so they are moving past him. Now, I wouldn't be, shocked to see Spencer moving back up the power rankings here pretty soon, but just considering the fact that, he had 1 bad finish and he had another finish that was pretty decent, but he started out way behind, behind the 8 ball. I kind of took that into account. So, Spencer Baston, 8th in power rankings right now, moving down 2 positions. And now we move on to 7th on the board. He's also 7th in the point standings, and that is Jacob Allen. So Jacob Allen, not a flashy weekend at all. I don't think I really mentioned his name on the microphone all that often, really, in the features. He finished 11th and 12th. That's pretty respectable finishes for him. Looking through his history books at Lakeside Speedway, his best run was 10th on 2 occasions with the Outlaws in the past. So Lakeside has never historically been a very good racetrack for Jacob Allen. So for him to come out of there with an 11th and a 12th, I would say that's a pretty solid run, a pretty solid weekend for him. And we'll see what he can do heading on to 34 and at Tri-City. I think Tri-City could potentially be a good track for Jacob Allen, especially if they can get that bottom tilled up just right for him. So keep an eye on the 1A car, but 2 solid runs here this week and moves him up past Spencer Baston. Well, actually, he stayed in the same spot. It's just kind of, one guy went +2, one guy went -2, and they both kind of split Jacob Allen there. He stays in the 7th position. Next on the board, and this guy had a little bit of bad luck on his side on one night, and the next night he was pretty good, and that is James McFadden. So McFadden 8th to 6th on the power rankings. He's 14th overall in Kubota High Limit Racing point standings. Yes, he's already passed Chris Windom and Brennan Crouch. He's only like 8 points behind Corey Eliason in the overall standings, and which is crazy to think he's only missed 4. He missed 4 races, right? So James McFadden has been extremely fast. He had finishes of 19th and 3rd on the weekend. That 19th place finish, he got spun around. I didn't see the replay. I don't remember what happened to him, but he finished in 19th after running inside the top 10 or right close to it, and it was early in the race, so he was moving forward. And I got to try and take that into account, right? He was fast. He started towards the front of the field and just had something go wrong, got spun out by somebody else. I'm not sure what happened to him, but a 3rd place run, and I think that he was one of the best cars on the racetrack there when it really mattered for $50,000 on a Saturday night. So taking that into account, that McFadden showed up when the big money was on the line. He took home $10,000 for that podium finish on Saturday. So McFadden, I think we're going to see him keep moving up this board, because the next guy on the board, he's another guy that I can't really figure it out. He's kind of in the same realm as Justin Peck that, we don't really know what's going on with the guy in 5th. He stays in the same spot as last week, and that is Rico Abu. So Rico Abu finishes of 7th and 9th on the weekend. He's 5th overall in the point standings right now. And what is going on with these guys, man? They've got a win with the Outlaws at, I can't remember where it was even at, 81 Speedway. They got a win with the Outlaws. They almost won at Volusia with the Outlaws, lost on the last corner, but he has been all but invisible when it comes to high limit racing. He's been on the podium one time all year, has not led a single lap. He's been in the top 5 maybe 2 or 3 times, but other than that, I mean, he's just been out there. He's been a top 10 guy, which maybe with what's going on here with Rico is now he's full-time with a series, so he's not taking as many risks. He knows the points are on the line. I'm not really sure. But these guys have not contended for a win, it seems like, all year long, and it's been definitely a weird thing. I will have a video coming out later today discussing the struggles so far for Rico Abu, comparing his first 20 races of this year compared to his first 20 races of last year as well. So Rico, 5th in the power rankings, 7th and 9th. He's good. I mean, he's just decent, right? He's not challenging for wins. He's not leading laps. He's just there. So not really sure what's going on with him either. But moving up on to 4th in the power rankings, and he is also 4th in the points. It is Corey Day. So Corey Day, going into the weekend, we kind of knew that, the big track stuff is where he's been struggling a little bit, right? You think back to Texas, you think back to Golden Isles. The 2 nights at Golden Isles, he didn't run in the top 10. He barely was in the top 10 at Texas. The big tracks are where the questions start arising for Corey Day. The first night, those questions, they still lingered, right? He was 13th in the main event. Really wasn't that good. But then he got it figured out on the second night. He finished 4th. He led like 13 laps of the 50,000 to win feature. He started on the pole, or he started outside the front row. He got a good dash draw and was able to take the lead from Kyle Larson early. And then, maybe he just held on. I don't know. He finished 4th after leading laps. You would think that they'd want to try and stay on the podium, but still a top 5 run on the big track. Should be a confidence booster for Corey Day. We know how good he is when it comes to the small racetracks. Might be the best guy in the entire field with high limit racing on the small racetracks. But the big track stuff, they've still got some work to do. And it was good to see him run 4th. I mean, when you think about it, he's got, there's been 4 big tracks, quote unquote. He's been outside the top 10 in 3 of them so far. So, or maybe it's been 5. No, Golden Isles, Texas, and then 2 at Lakeside. So 5 races on the big tracks and 3 of them outside the top 10. So maybe this is a good sign of good things to come for Corey Day. He moves down 1 spot to 4th in the power rankings, and he gets passed by the driver who's now 3rd in points and Mr. Consistency. How about Mr. Consistency Jr.? That is Brent Marks. He finished 4th and 6th on the weekend. He's currently 3rd in the high limit racing point standings, and kind of not in the same realm as Rico, right? Brent is more consistent when he's inside the top 5. He's on the podium more, right, than Rico is. Rico's more of a back half of the top 10 kind of guy right now. Brent Marks is a front half of the top 10 on the podium, but not leading laps and not winning races. But he's just been solid. I mean, 3rd in points, moves up right there. 2 finishes just outside the top 5 and 1 inside the top 5. Looked like he was going to challenge for the win on Saturday night for the 50K. Had a good starting position, but kind of faded back there towards the end of the race. But you can't knock what Brent Marks and that team are doing. They've been pretty solid all year long. It doesn't matter what track you go to. Marks is going to be right there inside the top 5 or right around it. Him and Brad Sweet still the only 2 drivers with the series to finish top 10 in all 12 races so far this year. So Brent Marks, can't really knock him for that. He's up to 3rd in the power rankings, and now we'll move up to 2nd. And losing the championship points lead after this weekend, and that is Tyler Courtney moving down 1 spot. He finished 2nd and he finished 8th in the 2 races this weekend. When the big money was on the line, he definitely struggled a little bit there. He was in the dash, but just could not keep that car up front. Finished in 8th. And then on the first night, he challenged for the lead a little bit. I think he led a couple laps in that one. Finished up in 2nd. Solid weekend for Tyler Courtney. That 8th place run is like the worst finish he's had in like 9 races or something, or maybe 7 or 8 races. He has been super, super good. And I almost kept him in first, but it's just, you cannot keep him in first when the guy that's first now has won 4 of the last 5 races, right? Tyler Courtney has been unbelievable so far this year. 2nd in points, and now he's 8 points behind the guy at the top. And you all know who that is. And it is Mr. Consistency Senior, and that is Brad Sweet. First. So 2 wins, and he's now leading the championship. And what else can you say? Brad Sweet is just unbelievable right now. Lakeside Speedway going into the weekend. It's one of historically his best racetracks in his arsenal. He's got a lot of top 10s there with the Outlaws. He's got a win. He's got a lot of laps, and that's a track right up his alley. So we'll see if he can keep this speed up. I mean, he's won 4 of the last 5. We go to 34 this weekend, Tri-City, and then Kokomo. We'll see if anybody can put up a challenge to him, because right now he's on another level compared to anybody else in this field right now. The only guy that really has anything for him, at least last weekend, was Kyle Larson. And we know how much he struggled here the last couple of weeks prior to this weekend in the sprint car. So Brad Sweet, he's on a heater right now. We'll see if he can keep that streak alive and keep going. He's got 2 wins in a row, looking for the hat trick when we get to 34 on Friday. So that's the power rankings. Let me know what you guys think. Do I have somebody in the wrong position? Let me know. Hit the subscribe button. We've got another video coming out later today, and that'll be documenting the season so far for Rico Abu. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.